Hey everybody, Dr. Shook here. This is another sauna session. It looks like that the only times I'm going to be able to speak to you, at least right now, are when I'm taking time for myself, and in this case, that's when I'm in the sauna. So let's talk today about something that's a very interesting topic that a lot of you may not be familiar with, but that's really, really important when we're talking about poor thyroid function, whether it be hypothyroidism or hyperthyroidism. And also this comes into play when we're talking about Hashimoto's. Okay, so what we know is that people that have hypothyroidism, right, so they have decreased thyroid hormone in their body, what ends up happening is that they have an increased risk for fracture. So their bones tend to be weaker. Now, there's something that's really, really important we need to talk about when we start talking about fracture risk with hypothyroidism or hyperthyroidism, and that is that people that tend to be that are hypothyroid, so low thyroid function, right, or low thyroid hormone function or levels, they tend to have higher than normal bone density. Okay, but there's more to the bone being able to resist fracture than just the density, because the density is how hard or dense the bone is, right? So it does not have to do, though, with the quality of the bone, because density of bone and quality of bone are two different things. So people that are hypothyroid tend to have more bone density, but a weaker microarchitecture. So if you look at a bone under a microscope, it has this trabecular pattern, they call it, or this microarchitecture. And so for a bone to be able to resist fracture, it has to have a good microarchitecture. It has to have good the collagen content and quality has to be good. The mineralization has to be good. The bone turnover rate has to be good, and it does have to have a certain amount of density. But people that are hypothyroid, they tend to have more dense bones, but a poor microarchitecture. So they're actually at a greater risk for fracture. Okay, so that's hypothyroid. Now, the interesting thing is that people that are hyperthyroid, they tend to have less bone density. So they're also at a risk for fracture. So hyperthyroidism and hypothyroidism both tend to predispose you to an increased risk of fracture. Now, there was one of the studies that I've looked at. They actually showed that when a person that was hyperthyroid returned to normal levels, the risk for fracture persisted. Now, there's a lot of factors, as I said, that come into play with risk for fracture, but it's something that's really, really important. If you guys are hyperthyroid, if you were hyperthyroid with Graves', if you had radiation iodine, or you took the medications to suppress it, and now you're normal, listen, you still have a risk for fracture. So the things that we try to do to make sure that you don't have these problems is, first of all, number one, you want to make sure that your thyroid physiology is now optimal, right? So everything from the quantity, the level in your body, to your body's ability to use it, right? You want to make sure that you can transport it, that you can use it, that you don't have high levels of inflammation that could make the body less sensitive to the thyroid hormone. You want to make sure you don't have excessively high levels of cortisol, and that you have normal cortisol rhythm production throughout the day. There's a daily rhythm production of cortisol. These are all things that can interfere with conversion of thyroid hormone and then your body's ability to use the thyroid hormone as well. You want to look at things like stress. I mean, when we talk about like people that have all these problems with their thyroid, you can be autoimmune, and we can address all of these food triggers, environmental triggers. We can address these infectious triggers. And yeah, those things are important. But what if you do all that and the person doesn't get better? Right? They don't really improve. Well, you have to look at the whole person, right? So I'm going to tell you guys right now, this is really, really important, because I'm trying to give you guys ways that you can help yourself. But just know that there are limits to things that you can try without getting testing and investigating it further. But there are some things that are really important. So because testing is not the end-all be-all, right? There are things that are beyond that too that we have to take in consideration, like stress levels. So when people will tell me that they're under a tremendous amount of stress, I mean, it is, there are some people that have unbelievably stressful lives, like unbelievably. I mean, your heart breaks when you hear their stories and what they're going through. They're in abusive relationships. They're in terrible jobs. They're, all kinds of things that are putting this unbelievable amount, their financial stresses, everything that are putting this incredible amount of stress on them. That stress will stimulate an autonomic response. Basically, your involuntary nervous system will put you into a fight or flight mode. And I think that's something that's really being missed as well when we're considering how do people improve with these thyroid problems and these autoimmune problems. Yeah, you got to look at these triggers that we can measure. But then you also have to look at the person as an individual and say, what does this person, are they under a tremendous amount of stress? Because that will drive inflammation. Because the stress response is not just the way you feel. You feel the way you feel because your chemistry changes, right? So you have measurable changes in chemistry, like cortisol levels will spike, and you'll have an increase in blood sugar, and you'll have surges in inflammatory chemistry, and all of that can trigger autoimmunity. Because you'll see people, I'll see people that they do really, really well. They do really well with the protocols and things that we teach them and that they learn, and then something really stressful in their life happens and their whole world falls apart, right? So and then they'll have flare-ups and they feel like they're starting over. And here's the thing. What I try to do is teach people, empower you to help yourself. Because listen, things are going to happen in life that are going to stress all of us tremendously, right? So what we want to have tools that we can then utilize when something like that happens, right? So if, for example, if my patients, they lose a loved one or something and they fall apart because of their stress, well, it's going to take time to heal. Maybe they need counseling, maybe they need some help with that. That's not unreasonable. Hopefully they have a support network of people that can help them with their grieving and can help them really to deal with that stressor itself. But then, so what are some other things that we might want to do? Well, possibly we want to make sure that their diet's as healthy as possible, right? We don't want them to just fall apart and abandon all their changes in their diet and their healthy eating. We want to make sure that they're doing things, if they can, to help decrease stress, even if it's prayer, meditation, if it's yoga, if it's gentle walking, whatever their stress coping mechanisms, if it's something like heart math or breathing, right? These are all things that are reasonable to help with that stress response. And then possibly temporary use of some nutraceuticals, some things to help improve and dampen the adrenal, the cortisol, blunt the spikes in the cortisol, so that you don't have such exaggerated releases of cortisol. Maybe we do something to support permeability of the gut, or potential permeability of the gut, because we know that inflammation from the stress and the spikes in cortisol, that can break down the tight junctions of the GI tract wall. So maybe we want to support the leaky gut, even just anticipating that these changes could promote this permeability again and flare up their autoimmunity. So we take on some of these things temporarily, maybe for a week, maybe for a few weeks, right? Maybe for a month or so. And then what we do is we try to taper, they want to taper off of that, and then they can kind of get back to where they were before, hopefully. But it is, everything's dynamic and changing. Nothing is just set in stone. So what we want to try to do is consider you as a whole person, and not just sit there and treat you like it's just these foods, or it's just something else. One of the most beneficial things that we can do, and that I think you all need to know, is that someone needs to help you with your expectations for what's happening with you, right? So I would tell you, autoimmune diseases aren't curable, right? But if we can identify triggers and we can manage our life a little bit better, then maybe we can dampen it so that we significantly decrease the symptoms and the problems that it's causing. Maybe we can put it in remission, right? Maybe we can do that, but it's something that we'll live with, and we need to be, the thing is that what I try to do is be an empowering practitioner to teach you tools to help yourself, because we don't cure anything. You don't cure autoimmunity. We don't know of any way to cure an autoimmune disease. Once the gene's turned on, it's on. But if you can identify the triggers and you can dampen these environmental factors that are flaring and pushing the immune system to promote the autoimmunity, then you can actually do something to make an impactful long-term change in that person's life, right? And really help them. So that's really the goal. And I think the most important thing is to understand that you're not going to get cured. When you work with someone, they're not going to cure you of autoimmunity. And I think that's probably one of the most I don't want to say tragic, but it's definitely something that I think people are being, the doctors aren't sharing that with them. I see people that come in and they feel defeated. They've worked with someone and they're like, well, I thought I was going to heal my leaky gut and all these things were going to be better and I was going to have, my life was going to be better, and I think they have this expectation that this expectation that I've got a problem that we're going to be able to work on, and then it's going to be completely gone, and I'm going to be better, right? And setting the expectation to help people understand this is something that you're going to be living with, and that the goal is to put it in remission, and so that essentially it's not even there if you were checked for it, right? It's not detectable, and that it's not affecting you. But you have to understand that you're always going to live with it. So things like these emotional events or triggers can absolutely do that. So it can flare you up and can put you back, can cause you to regress. So you're always going to go, that's something that's got to be considered. So setting expectations is huge, and understanding what you're dealing with is huge, and empowering, right? Give the person power, but don't tell the person, don't work with someone, and which I've seen, and they have an expectation that they're going to be better, and this is going to be their, the thing that fixes everything. And so this is one of the reasons, like whenever I'm considering working with someone, or if I can accept someone's case, is what are their expectations? What is their attitude towards this problem? Do they understand it? And, that's why I try to educate them. But sometimes people, they don't understand this yet, and I understand. I don't get upset with them. I mean, they just want to feel better, right? And but I know at the same time that if what the model of support that I use, if it does not match what, and the outcomes are not such that I know that they're going to match with that person's expectation, then I can't work with them. All right, so that's when I decide whether or not I can accept the case. And is their attitude, is their attitude towards the problem, congruent with what I think is going to result in a successful outcome. So I just want to share with you guys, and really we start talking about bone density, and then here I am, I get off on these things that cause these autoimmune conditions to fall apart, and then setting expectations, when you're working with this, understanding the problem better. So I hope this is helpful, but I just really want you guys to kind of understand what you're dealing with here, so that you don't beat yourself up. Just realize that you're living with something, and I am too. I'm autoimmune as well, so we live with this, and the goal is to help ourselves, right? Help ourselves become educated as to what we're dealing with, and understand that we can do things so this autoimmunity doesn't control us. But what we've got to do is we got to help people. People need to be educated and aware of this before this gets to the third stage of autoimmunity, where there's massive destruction, right? We might still be able to significantly help someone in that stage, but it is it becomes much more difficult, and expectations as to what our outcomes are, we don't really know how well we're going to be able to dampen it, because once your body starts losing tolerance to all your tissues and environmental chemicals, and it's off the charts, it becomes extremely difficult to really help. And once someone's taking immunosuppressants, it can become a very, very difficult thing to work with, because none of the interventions we can do are going to stimulate the immune system, which sometimes we want to do. Most of the time, initially, we want to dampen it and calm it down. But once you're on an immunosuppressant, you can't really measure you can't measure some of the antibodies that you're looking for to see what they're reacting to. You can't do a lot of things. So that's the ultimate goal, is to help people avoid getting on these immunosuppressants and a lot of these other medications, and to catch this earlier, right, before it becomes a problem that is very, very severe. Because then we just I would still try to help someone, but it just becomes a lot more difficult to do. Okay, so anyway, Dr. Shook, I have gone on for about 14 minutes. I just want to start out this talking about bone density and hypothyroidism or hyperthyroidism, and then we got into a little bit more detailed stuff, but that's kind of how this goes, right? Because there's a lot of things that, it's all connected, like the body and the systems of the body. They're all connected. So I hope this has been helpful. If you guys have any questions or you need anything, let us know. I'll try to help you out as much as I can. I'll just tell you guys, like, we're getting so many questions and so many comments and everything. I just, I got a team, and it's 3 of us, and even with 3 of us, we cannot get to you guys. We can't get to everyone. So I'm doing the best that I can. We're doing the best that we can to try to answer questions and help you out and give you tools to empower yourself. So, I mean, listen, we will try to give you everything free that we possibly can give you without literally paying for you to have access to something. Like a lot of these guidebooks and things that I create, literally, if we charge $7, we're just trying to cover our technology costs, right? For some of these things. If we give it to you like truly like free, like we give it to you free, we are going to be paying literally, because we have to pay money to make some of these things available. We have to pay for that. So we will actually be paying for you to have access to it. So know that we're just trying to give you guys access to things and give you tools, and I'll share as much as I can with you in these videos and give you as much free information as possible about what you might want to consider doing. But it is, you know, everyone has such unique problems and drivers of their condition that it's not easy, because first of all, I can't give you medical advice, right? So I can just talk, about cases that I've seen, what might work, and what I've seen work for a lot of people in the past. So that's why we've created these programs, and I've created our 6-week transformation, Hashimoto's transformation program, which is for hypothyroidism, people that have autoimmune conditions. I mean, it's fantastic for autoimmunity, even though it says Hashimoto's. So anyway, just want to share that with you guys. I really appreciate you. If you have questions, let us know. If there's something I can talk about, a topic, post it. I'm trying. I know there's a lot of people that have questions about leaky gut, so I'm going to try to do that in another video, but I really want to use a whiteboard for that so that I can do some illustration. Okay, appreciate you guys. Hope you have a wonderful day. If you need anything, let us know. Thanks.